Welcome to everyone around the world as part of the EITI Global Network. My greetings to you, and I'm thrilled to be speaking from my first day back in the International Secretariat here in Oslo after a 3-month gap. And I know the crisis has affected all of us, and many of you probably worse than us here in Norway. And it's been an enormous privilege to see how hard everyone has been working to sustain the momentum of the EITI process amidst very difficult circumstances. The crisis, of course, takes many different forms in many countries. Yes, the health pandemic is very intense. It hits some more than others. But it's not just the health crisis, it's two related crises too, bringing these together as a triple crisis. So the health pandemic has taken its toll, but it's also having economic impacts. And the oil price falls have had very major, significant effects for those nations relying heavily on revenues from that source. And commodity prices remain unstable as global demand remains uncertain. So these impacts continue to have their immediate effects on revenues, and of course create worries about how revenues will be sufficient, not least to meet the enormous public health response that many countries are engaged in, but also to continue other social programs and investments. So this is a very significant crisis affecting us all, and will affect the continued success of implementation of the EITI. So the question of what EITI is doing to support implementing countries in the face of these challenges are the following. First of all, we want to make reporting much more flexible and less burdensome. So we're introducing arrangements which the board has approved and which we're going to publicise through a resource centre on the EITI website that explains how this will take place. We don't want to weaken the rigour of reporting, but we certainly want to reduce the amount of time and effort that it can take under conventional reporting. Countries will be able still to do conventional reporting using independent administrators, but we're also encouraging experimentation and the use of government and company systems to report information and to share data. That's an important transition we're all embarking on. And there's a third component of this, which is a pilot program where we are piloting alternative forms of reporting with a view to framing reporting increasingly around online data and systematic disclosure. So we have those three elements at work, but what's really critical here is the role played by the multi-stakeholder groups. The multi-stakeholder groups need to discuss and agree which path they wish to pursue for reporting. The other thing about multi-stakeholder groups, they play a vital role increasingly in using the results of reporting. So it's not just how they commission reports and supervise their production, it's been active participants in their usage. So increasingly we are encouraging multi-stakeholder groups to use the reports to inform public opinion, of course, but also to make sure that reports get to the right people who are responsible for the most critical decisions in the extractive sector and those responsible for revenue management. So making reports timely, relevant, and responding to the more immediate needs of policymakers. And finally, it's information. It's about communicating the results of reporting to the wider public. So we see the MSGs as playing a vital role in all those aspects of reporting going forward. And with the changes I've summarised, there's also going to be a change to the validation schedule, which again the board has approved, with more flexibility in mind and granting extensions to give countries more time to complete the validation process with our team's input. The other thing I want to just draw your attention to is we are still very committed to rolling out our plans on capacity development. Of course, all of it now going to be virtual and online, but we plan more than 40 separate webinars and capacity development events. I really want to highlight at the International Secretariat that our teams are working increasingly collaboratively in delivering these important events, along with intensified support for implementation online. So we're really trying to gear up our efforts to meet your expectations and needs. And finally, let me end on a very positive note, which is we have just launched our new progress report, setting out lots of great country examples of impressive progress on so many aspects of the standard over the past year. So I hope you'll take a chance to look at that in advance of our first virtual board meeting next week. Thank you and stay safe.